Hello, my name is Mira Bott, and I'm a junior at Montgomery High School in New Jersey. Welcome back to the interview series on college and careers, where I talk to established professionals from a wide range of careers to learn and gain a well-rounded understanding about different careers and different pathways to success. Today, I'm super excited to be speaking with Mr. Rohit Sood, the Executive Vice President at Eversana, a life sciences commercial services company. Mr. Sood has more than 20 years of experience in technology and life sciences industries and has spent more than 16 years as a strategist and operations executive in the life sciences industry. He's a sought-after thought leader on a wide range of critical topics such as R&D, strategy, and commercialization. Mr. Sood has his bachelor's degree from Stony Brook University in computer science and applied mathematics, a master's from Pace University in telecommunications, and his MBA from Rutgers Business School. Welcome, Mr. Sood. All right. Hello, Mr. Sood. So to start, I just wanted to start off by saying that you're analyzing your career from kind of far away. It looks like it's split into two main categories, kind of technology and pharmaceuticals. So could you just elaborate on your career journey? How did you end up where you are right now?
That's a great question. So I started in technology because my dad asked me to go into technology. And I think it was the right move at the time. And I was very fortunate to have some good mentors who kind of nudged me along the way. And I had a great career where I ended up running a division of a technology consulting firm and working on some incredible projects, both in the financial sector as well as in what was called the e-space, pre-digital, and all the cool buzzwords that we use today. And then in 2002, our business wasn't doing well. We shut down shop, primarily driven by September 11th, because our biggest client as a technology consulting firm was United Airlines. Mm-hmm. And so it gave me some pause to think about what is it that I wanted to do next. And rather than continuing down in technology, I decided it was time to go do something different. I took a year off, went back to business school, and had an opportunity to do a 9-month internship at Johnson & Johnson in the medical device division, Ethicon. And I was hooked. It was, I loved the complexity of healthcare in general and the nuances. And as a result, I just stayed in the industry. And again, was very fortunate to have some good mentors who took care of me and gave me some good opportunities along the way.
Okay. So it seems like a lot of other people I've interviewed have said, is that mentors is a huge part of your professional career, and also kind of chance, right? Like you couldn't have planned the way that things ended up happening in terms of moving from technology to pharma.
Yes, I think, look, mentors are very important, but, we tend to think of mentors in terms of titles often. Mm-hmm. And I think of mentors as people who are looking out for you and helping you, nudge you in the right direction. Right. Whether that's a friend, whether it's a family member, a parent, and also folks from the industry who were your clients. I've had some mentors who've been clients of mine at Merck when I was doing a lot of work there, who made me think about the right things and made me ask the more difficult questions about my journey in the profession. And there is something as, choosing your mentors wisely. And these are typically folks that don't have a hidden agenda and are just thinking about you. Mm-hmm. And on your first point about, luck or, opportunity, I think luck has a big part of it. Sometimes you're just at the right place at the right time. Sometimes you choose not to do something and that puts you in the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. And I've experienced all those things in my career.
Okay. So I think you touched on this a little bit, but how did you end up studying what you did for your undergrad? Was it because of your parents, or was it because of your inclined interest in that, or how did that happen?
So I think as a 17-year-old coming into the US for the first time leaving India, I think a lot of my decisions were driven by what my parents wanted me to do. Mm-hmm. And as you start growing up and realizing what gets you excited and what you're passionate about, you'll start exploring different coursework, different areas. And I think for me, it started off with computers and mathematics. Then I started to look into business. I also realized that the university that I'd gone to right out of the gate was not the right university for me, given what I wanted. So I had to transfer out and met some great friends and focused on computer science still, but also got a minor in business. Mm-hmm. And then I got a master's in telecom, which again, I have never used it, but there was just something, an interest that I wanted to do for myself rather than someone else telling me. But I'm glad I did it because I still mm-hmm. use a lot of the skills and techniques that I learned in my undergrad and grad school in what we do today.
Okay, that's really interesting. And I think there's like a stigma, especially like as I'm entering the college app process of like transferring schools. But you know, all the people who I know who have transferred schools, I feel like it's just been such a better experience. So it's good to hear like seeing where you are now and having transferred schools, like you're not gonna like fail or anything. You're still successful. So, you know.
And even if you fail, you know, you'll figure it out. I think each of the failures also teaches you things about, you know, who you are as a person or what you like and don't like. Mm-hmm. Right. For me, my first university I went to was a very small liberal arts school. I really had a good time there, but I just felt it was too small for me because I couldn't reinvent myself.
Right.
And then transferring to SUNY Stony Brook, a school with 19,000 kids where I really didn't know anyone, allowed me to kind of reinvent myself a little bit. Right. And I think each one of us needs that space, and everyone's different. So what may work for me may not work for someone else. There are many I know that who are very sure as to what they want to do right out of high school. I thought I knew what I wanted to do right out of high school. Mm-hmm. And it changes. It changes. As you grow up, you start figuring out what you want to do. You get more comfortable with, you know, your capabilities as to who you are as a person, and you'll start exploring different things.
Right, right. So looking at your career journey, you took a gap for a year, which is pretty unconventional, and I haven't really seen that before. So if you don't mind, what did you do in that time, and how did it help or hurt you professionally?
So I took that year off. It was kind of forced on me because we shut down our business in Chicago and moved back home. But I took that year initially to try and just learn a few things. And I learned how to make a pizza for the first time. And I remember messing it up many, many times. I tried to build a closet that I realized I'm not very good at construction. Should stay away from that and hire people to do that. But I took the year off primarily to train for a race that I had always wanted to do. It was a ultra marathon in the Sahara. It was 7 days. It's the highlight of my experience during that year. So it was essentially training every day, was in very good shape. And I also applied to business school. It took that time to kind of just figure things out as to what I was excited about, what I wanted to do next, and also to think about the right business school, given my experience in undergrad, making sure that I was making the right decision. You know, not always going to the best business school, and there are many really good schools, but the one that was right for me.
Right, right. Well, that's really interesting. And so at your current role, what does your typical day or week look like in terms of what you do?
It depends. So I tend to think about my typical day or week in terms of what I'm doing from a short-term perspective and what are we doing for the long-term perspective. Mm-hmm. So the short term, maybe we have these partnerships where we are managing the commercialization of a brand as part of the Eversana complete commercialization service offering that we have. And it might be that we're working on a partnership where there are issues, operational issues that we need to fix, because if you don't fix it now, it comes to bite you later on, right? So you have to kind of like, that becomes a priority. Right. There may be things around your hiring. I spend a lot of time on recruiting right now, making sure we are hiring the right folks who are a cultural fit for our firm and also who are great to work with. Mm-hmm. So I'm spending a lot of time in some of the short-term things, and then we are building a whole playbook. So we are building it, we are trying it, we are identifying flaws, coming back and fixing it. So that's a long-term play. Right. And then I'm involved in a lot of BD discussions. Once in a while, I'll get pulled into a client discussion to how we operationalize things. I'm helping out there. Often I'll be asked to kind of look into a business specific thing that is not in my wheelhouse, because we are very collaborative in all things that we do at Eversana. And then once in a while, I'm asked to look at a potential acquisition that we may be looking at, where, hey, just take a look, tell us what you think, jump in. And so it's very exciting because that's that balance between short term and long term. And then I always struggle with this, what is urgent versus what is important? And that's something I think about every day. And I'm pretty bad at it because sometimes I think about this is urgent and you start working through it like, yeah, but it's not that important. Who can help me or who can I delegate it to? And when you're a very small team, you don't have anyone to delegate to. So then you have to figure out what's your priority. Right. And so it's not an easy answer, but it's something that I would imagine all executives or professionals tend to struggle with.
Right. Wow, that's really interesting. I didn't realize that your role entailed so many, different things. And that point that you touched on about hiring people, as someone who is hiring and looking for many different things in a new hiree, what are some things that you look for in, let's say, an entry-level employee?
That's a great question. So most of my team are really seasoned professionals.
Okay.
I have a PMO team that I'm actually building right now that are, I would say, early stage professionals. They've been in the industry for 2 to 3 years and are now coming into a different role. I think at the end of the day, the first thing we look at for all our roles is a cultural fit. How are they going to fit within our Eversana culture, and how are they going to interact with me as a leader and my leadership team? And then how are they going to interact with each other and then our partners on the business unit side? So that cultural fit is like at the core. The second is just how they think. Are they problem solvers? One of my favorite questions is, tell me about a time that you failed. What did you learn? How did you recover? If you didn't recover, what was the outcome? Tell me about that experience, right? And I want to see how honest they are, if they've actually experienced it, the challenges that they went through. Another interesting question that I like to ask team members is, tell me about a time where you had to learn something that no one was teaching you and you had to figure it out on your own. So that learning agility, where someone is able to just go figure things out, is really important. And I mean, I look at, did you go to YouTube and figure things out? Did you go ask someone to help you, right? Nothing wrong in asking for help. So we look at those things. Then there's the technical piece, which is, I think, maybe third or fourth that I look at, right? And then the last area that for certain roles I look at is how, because almost all my team members are player coaches. So they are doing work and they're coaching team members, right? Or collaborating with others. So this idea about rolling up your sleeves and leaving your ego out of the door, or your title out of the door, and just focusing on solving problems, right? It's a very specific type of personality that we are looking for. And so far, we've been very lucky. We've hired some really good people who fit that profile really well.
Right. No, that's wonderful. And it's really interesting to hear about that from kind of the hiring perspective. While I'm still in high school and not really immersed in that world yet, just even having the little experiences that I do, it's interesting to see like what people are looking for versus what I kind of have and what I can do to like build myself and be more well-rounded.
So I will say, look, when I came out of undergrad, I had this, and even business school, we all think about technical skills, right? I want to be the financial quant jock, or I want to be the science person who can kind of solve some problem, or a mathematician or a computer scientist, whatever it may be. I think those are important skills. I don't want to diminish the importance of those skills, right? But how do you work with people? How do you influence people? How do you have this phraseology or this emotional intelligence, as you may have heard of? It's like is a core component of what I'm looking for. Is like, how do you address conflict? How do you deal with conflict with your peer group? And how do you kind of work through those things with them, right? So you still have a professional, healthy relationship, and you're okay with disagreeing with them. So I think we think about all those things in a very meaningful way. And as you come out and go through your university experience, you're going to pick up these skills. And they may not all come from the classroom. They may come from a sorority. They may come from a participating in some university, activity, whether it's sports or some community effort that you're doing. But these are the skills that will help you kind of put that well-rounded individual. But the technical skills need to be there as well. People are going to hire you initially for your technical skills, and as you move up, those other skills start taking over.
Wow, that's really good advice. So like you mentioned, you work in terms of kind of like a consultant for other companies. So have you ever thought about working for a pharma company, kind of being on the other side of what you do right now?
I have, and I think this role I have right now, Mira, is kind of as close to a pharma company as can be, right? If you think about what we do, we are partnering with these micro cap, mid caps, and hopefully big pharma at some point where we become their commercial arm. So we are doing the entire execution from strategy to market access to marketing to the field execution to supply chain to treat our specialty pharmacy and our patient services. So we are coordinating all that. So in some ways, we are essentially becoming a small hidden pharmaceutical company with all the operations of industry, but we are executing on our partner's behalf while being part of Eversana. So this is as close as it can get, but you just never know what happens, right? I think if I were to plan out my career, I will probably be very disappointed. I think some of these things unfold, and this experience I'm having here has been just incredible.
Right. Well, that's really interesting. So from your unique perspective, what are the most exciting and emerging fields or industries? Through my interviews, I've heard a lot about AI and big data, and through the pandemic, public health. So what do you think?
So if you just think about healthcare, I think there are three big areas that are going to shape us from a life sciences perspective. I think the data, artificial intelligence, and all the buzzwords, machine learning, analytics, I think that is one aspect of it, which is definitely changing how companies are commercializing, how they are analyzing the market to think about how they go into market, and the skills there around having the computer science background or data analytics background, or even just big data like master data management. Having that kind of background is really important beyond just what we call digital transformation in terms. I think having that technology background is very helpful in that area. The other is just new technologies from a science perspective where we're coming up with new treatments, right? So your biology, chemistry, bioengineering, and all the science fields that will help you kind of innovate, bring new treatments to market. We used to think about oncology from a chemotherapy perspective. Now you have immunotherapy. Now you're getting to gene and cell therapy, and all this whole evolution of the scientific technology side is incredible. So having university grads who are going on to do advanced degrees in gene cell therapies and other areas, whether it's just biochemistry or biology or bioengineering, is going to be really important as well. And I think there's an opportunity there. And then there's, I think this whole thing around how do we commercialize, right? So there are new techniques coming in. We are a very regulated industry. So it's not much innovation that happens very quickly. It takes time, but there is innovation happening. So having the standard background of economics, finance, marketing, understanding selling and people and org design, org behavior, all those things will also be equally important on the third dimension. So, if you think about just life sciences in general, it's not just the technology side. There's also these functional area expertise that we can add that will evolve with time. We talk about omni-channel in a big way, which is a integration of these functional areas as well as technology, right? Where you're going to market in a very meaningful way, in a different way.
Right. Wow. That's A lot, but it's interesting to hear how, I mean, you're immersed in the field, so you're an expert. So for all the rest of us, it's really interesting to hear how, we can potentially be a part of that. But
And you can, regardless of your background, you can come into the industry in many different ways, right? You don't need just one way of getting into the industry.
right.
I think you can come in from the sales side, you can come in from the marketing side, you can come in from the R&D side, even manufacturing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have all these folks that are coming with operations management. If you've taken a class on linear algebra that can help you do supply chain designs and things of that sort, you can become part of that whole operations management and supply chain. And then there's the data analytics that we started our conversation today around. There's the whole computer science component that can help there as well.
Right. So just to round out this discussion today, I just wanted to ask you, if you had to do it all over again from starting from the college applications process through your whole career journey, would you do anything differently?
Oh, I would do a lot of things differently. I would start by, I was never a very good student, but I was very, very good at mathematics, physics, and economics. Those are the three areas that I liked a lot in my high school. I think, so going into computer science, while even my parents asked me to do it, was a natural progression for me.
Okay.
But I wish someone had what you're doing right now. I love what you're doing because it's kind of helping people think about different avenues. Mm-hmm. Right? We tend to be very narrow focused in when we are young, and we tend to think we know everything, right? And as you learn more, it opens up how you think about things, and what you thought was your truth may change. Okay. So I think first thing I would change is probably look at which colleges I went to from the get-go very differently. Okay. Right. Second thing I would look at is I would probably have taken a few different classes early on. Right. I was very focused on engineering classes. I'm glad I did my business minor, but I wish I'd taken a few more courses in philosophy or other areas as well. I would make those minor tweaks, but I think everything happens for a reason. And even if I say, I wish I would have made all those changes, I wouldn't be where I am without those experiences.
Of course. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
You got to make the most of what you have or what you're given, right? And then you build on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the last question is, what piece of advice would you leave, high school and college students who are kind of in the similar boat as me, unsure of where to go or what to major in? What advice would you give us?
I think I would focus on learning. And learning comes from different places. It doesn't have to be classroom. It could be outside. It could be your volunteering work that you do. It may be an internship that you have in your freshman, sophomore, junior year. I think learning is very important, and you got to make it almost like a lifelong dream where I don't care what your age is or where you are in your career, you should always keep learning. Second thing I would say is read. I'm amazed as to how little people read. And it doesn't have to be reading the Financial Times or Forbes all the time, right? It could be something in the area of interest, something different, right? I love reading management books about leadership and how to manage people. It gives me ideas about how I can be better or things that I'm not doing well, right? So you're constantly learning and you're going to make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. Right. I think there's that favorite saying, perfection is the enemy of progress.
Yeah.
It's like you just got to keep trying and try different things. And through that, you will find what gets you excited, what you're passionate about, right? You may have a passion today, but as you learn more, it will evolve. And you have to give yourself the freedom and the permission to try different things and fail sometimes. It's okay, right? Yep. It's very hard to be open to failure. I struggle with it even today. Right. So, and if you talk to any person who's been doing this for a while, they probably feel the same way. And it's okay. You just got to try, explore, and learn.
Okay. Well, I think that's a great note to, close off our interview today. But thank you so much, Mr. Sood, for coming on and discussing about your career journey. And I'm sure so many other people, as well as myself, will find this helpful.
Thanks, Mira. This was great.